Hello, and welcome to Crime and Court. My name is Heather, and this is another episode in my Wrongful Conviction Series, Innocence Lost. And today we're going to be talking about Eddie Joe Lloyd, who you can actually see on the screen in front of you. That is Eddie Joe Lloyd. He served 17 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. And DNA, thankfully and luckily, exonerated him. So let's hear about his story. Actually, first, I'm going to let you watch this clip. It's just a short, so it's a short video, obviously, but it's not very long. And I better unmute you first. All right, here you go.
Eddie Joe Lloyd, a man who served 17 long years in a Michigan prison for a crime he didn't commit. Imagine, the year is 1984. A young girl in Detroit tragically loses her life, and the finger points at Eddie, a man battling mental illness in a hospital, not a prison. Eddie was hopeful, eager to help the police solve the horrific crime. The officers, they took advantage of his goodwill, fed him details only the perpetrator could know, convinced him that a confession would help them catch the real criminal. Eddie confessed, believing he was aiding justice. But the truth couldn't be hidden forever. In 2002, DNA testing, a beacon of truth, proved his innocence. Eddie Joe Lloyd, a man wronged, finally walked free. Eddie Joe Lloyd, a man who served 17...
Now it's just going to loop around. All right, so let's turn that off. So you got a little preview of what this is going to be about. So I'm on the innocentproject.org website under cases, Eddie Joe Lloyd. These always break my heart, these stories. All right, so let's dive in. Innocence Project client Eddie Joe Lloyd served 17 years in Michigan prison for an unaliving, and an R that he didn't commit. I can't say words like that on YouTube or else I get my video banned or whatever they do, like shadow ban it from other people seeing it. Anyway, so sorry. I mean, not to be light in this topic. So he served 17 years in a Michigan prison for an unaliving and an R that he didn't commit before DNA testing proved his innocence and led to his release in 2002. Lloyd was convicted of a brutal 1984 unaliving of a 16-year-old girl in Detroit, Michigan. While in a hospital receiving treatment for his mental illness, Lloyd wrote to police with suggestions on how to solve various unalivings, including the unaliving for which he was convicted. Oh my gosh. Okay, so police officers visited and interrogated him several times in the hospital. During the course of these interrogations, police officers allowed Lloyd to believe that by confessing and getting arrested, he would help them smoke out the real perpetrator. Wow. I hate that cops can lie to people. Please, if you haven't already, watch my John Reed technique of interrogation, and it goes into a lot of what that is and how the law enforcement will try to break down your confidence and make you crumble into just a withering ball of nothing until you confess in a crime. And sometimes it works in getting confessions from people who actually committed the crime, but it also works in getting confessions from people who did not commit the crime. And that is the problem with the Reed technique, which has been used for quite some time in our country. It's like the most used technique in interrogation. And in, I want to say, somewhere in England, is it England? Maybe they have a much different approach where it's not confrontational and aggressive when they interrogate someone, and they get better results. All right, anyways, so police officers visited him and interrogated him several times. They got him to believe that by confessing, he'd smoke out the real perpetrator. They fed him details that he could not have known, including the location of the body, the type of jeans the victim was wearing, a description of earrings the victim wore, and other details from the crime scene. Lloyd signed a written confession and gave a taped-recorded statement as well. And this man doesn't really know any better. I mean, he's just believing what the cops are saying to him, and they're telling him he's going to catch the real perp. At trial, the prosecution played the confession to the jury and claimed that Lloyd had ended the victim's life in order to get away with the other crime, the R crime. The forensic evidence consisted of stains on her long johns used to strangle. Long johns used to strangle the victim, and a bottle that was forced into the victim, and a piece of paper with a stain that was stuck to the bottle. Oh, okay. The only testing presented at trial consisted of confirming the presence of biological material. I don't know if I can say these words, so I try not to. All right, so Lloyd was represented during a pretrial by a court-appointed attorney who received $150 for pretrial preparation and investigation. This attorney gave $50 of this to a convicted felon who conducted no investigation into Lloyd's mental state or confession. This lawyer withdrew from the case 8 days before trial, but another attorney was appointed and the trial was not postponed. How can you be... Here, Hazel. Okay, she wants to go lay over there. I don't know what she's doing. Here, come here, come here. Hold on one second. She needs her blanket. She's being a butthead. Okay. Lay down. Okay, she's good. Sorry about that. She does, like, twirls under the blanket, so it causes the blanket to stick to her, so I have to hold the blanket up so she can spin around and find the perfect spot. She's so needy. Anyways, her name is Hazel, if anybody's wondering. And she's a very needy dog, and she's teaching me patience every day. All right, so this attorney gave $50, to the convicted felon. Didn't help Lloyd. All right, so back to Eddie Joe Lloyd. This lawyer withdrew from the case 8 days before trial, but another attorney was appointed and the trial was not postponed. That is insane. You cannot be ready for trial in 8 days. It's impossible. I can't believe it wasn't postponed. The trial attorney did not meet with the pretrial attorney. He did not question the details of the investigation and did not cross-examine the police officer most directly involved in the coerced confession. He called no defense witnesses and gave a 5-minute closing argument. Oh, wow. The jury deliberated for less than an hour before convicting him on first-degree felony unaliving in May of 1988. Can you even imagine sitting through that trial and you're like, somebody help? Like, no one's on my side. I can't even. Lloyd's attorney lamented in the press that his client would not permit an insanity defense, saying, with a psychiatric plea, we might have had a chance. If he's not goofy, there's not a dog in Texas. Lloyd insisted that despite his mental illness, he was innocent. Yeah, I wouldn't play either if I was innocent. And that is so offensive. If he's goofy, I mean, I know times were different, but I mean, wow, have things changed since the 1980s? I mean, just society as a whole, I think, has gotten better. We're a lot worse for social media, but we're a lot better for the internet. So it's kind of a, I don't know, balancing situation. People think that they can be so rude and high and mighty on their keyboards from their computer at home or their cell phone, and they forget that there's another person on the other end of what they're saying. It's insane. Anyways, all right, sorry, let's get back to this. At the time of sentencing, Judge Leonard Townsend complained that the court's hands were tied since he could only sentence Lloyd to life imprisonment rather than what he believed was the only justifiable sentence, which was termination by extreme constriction, hanging. With regard to Michigan's repeal of the DP, Townsend added, and on account of this case, a lot of people who had reservations about capital punishment have been convinced that they should jump over the fence and sign petitions. The sentence the statute requires is inadequate. I cannot impose the sentence that the facts call for this matter. When asked if he had anything to say, Lloyd answered, into each life tears must fall. That means on both sides. MJ, the victim, who had a right to live, as we all do, she said goodbye and disappeared in the darkness, never to be seen again alive. One day later, she was found in a vacant garage, cold, alone, and lifeless. Eddie Lloyd was focused on as a suspect while he was a mental patient, and somewhere along the line, when he was charged and convicted of the crime, a heinous and brutal crime, what I want to say to this court is that to the family, MJ, to the city of Detroit, to everybody who was involved with the case, I did not end MJ's life. I never ended anybody in my life, and I wouldn't. I mean, heartfelt. And what do you do? I mean, our system is so screwed up. An attorney appointed to file Lloyd's direct appeal did not visit Lloyd in prison or raise a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel. I mean, if there's ever a case of ineffective assistance of counsel, this would be it. Lloyd wrote to the court saying his appellate assistance was lacking, and the appellate attorney wrote that Lloyd should not be taken seriously because he was guilty and his life should end. That's what his appellate attorney said to the judge, that he should not be taken seriously and he was guilty and should end his life, or at least have his life end. All right, so all of Lloyd's appeals failed. Lloyd contacted the Innocence Project in 1995 seeking assistance in having a biological evidence subjected to DNA testing for years. For years, project students searched for the evidence. Finally, so Innocence Project students searched for the evidence, and finally a number of evidence items were found with assistance from the Wayne County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. If it weren't for Innocence Project trying to push for finding this supposed lost DNA, then, I mean, God love them. I love the Innocence Project and what they represent. Sorry, my throat's dry. Yeah, I think the Innocence Project is amazing, and what they do is amazing, and they're diligent, and I would love to help one, but there's only one in downtown Chicago, I think, in my area, and I ain't going downtown Chicago. No way. No. If you're from here, you would know. Traffic is just the worst. All right, so where was I? All right, so all of Lloyd's appeals failed. Lloyd contacted the Innocence Project. The students found the evidence. Finally, a number of evidence items were found with the assistance of the Wayne County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. DNA testing conducted by Forensic Science Associates and confirmed by the Michigan State Crime Lab found the same unknown male profile from sperm cells on the broken glass bottle, the piece of paper, the stain on the long johns, and samples collected from the victim's body during the autopsy. So all of those samples were consistent with this unknown male profile. Each of them excluded Eddie Joe Lloyd. He was exonerated and released on August 26, 2002, after serving 17 years in prison for an and an unaliving that he didn't commit. Sadly, he passed away 2 years later. He only got to live his life in freedom for 2 years. I bet you that stress, all that stress and time, and not thinking like nobody's there for you and nobody believes you, it's got to take a toll on your body. I wonder, if he had some health issues because of it. I'm sure, just PTSD for number one after being put in prison for something you didn't do. So again, he served 17 years. This was in the state of Michigan. The charge was for unaliving. He was convicted of first-degree felony homicide, and he got life without parole. So he was never getting out unless the Innocence Project helped him. It is so unfortunate that he only got to live out 2 years. He pled not guilty. Okay, so the contributing causes of his conviction. This is interesting. So the false confessions or admissions which were coerced by the law enforcement that were interrogating him and repeatedly going to his hospital when he was being treated for mental illness, and an inadequate defense. So obviously he couldn't defend himself. He didn't even know that he was in any kind of trouble giving statements to the police on something like this. So he had no idea. And then when he gets a lawyer, one lawyer up and leaves, and then the other one doesn't do a damn thing. So yeah, it's so unfortunate. It's a crime that the justice system doesn't take care of our society and weed out the innocent people from the guilty people. I mean, it's supposed to, in a perfect society, in a perfect world, in a perfect justice system, it's supposed to weed out the innocent versus the guilty. But it's still, we have a lot of work to go, because there's still so many innocent people sitting in prison, or we don't even know how many innocent people have lost their lives in prison, spent their final days in a prison because they didn't get exonerated by DNA. I can't even imagine the number, but I guarantee you it's high, because there are flaws and there are human errors in our judicial system. So it is a problem. I think that really... Okay, now my dogs are all going to run downstairs and make noise. Okay. Sorry. It's just about to end too, so... Alright, so now that it's quieter, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Please hit the like button, comment below, let me know what you think about Eddie Joe Lloyd and his story, and just let me know if you know any other tragedies like this, or that you've experienced one. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye now. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeandcourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.